Hello, and welcome to Be Here Now, the Peaceful Empowerment Work Show, where presence invites perspective and allows peace. We are live on newstreamingnetwork.com, home of goingboldmedia.com, goingsolomedia.com, and WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network Radio. You'd think I'd have that all memorized by now, but I don't. If you like our content, please like, comment, and share and subscribe. I am your co-host, Judy Forder, and I am here with my special guest, Miss
Kris Burke. Hi, everybody.
We got Kris Burke back in the house with us today. We're going to be talking about be seen, be heard, reconnecting to your community.
That's right.
Yes, and this is where Janice is working, but she may be listening, so shout out to Janice. Yeah. This is where she talks about Peaceful Empowerment Works being a nonprofit. And I've heard some feedback from some of our viewers where they're a little confused about the whole nonprofit and the show. The show is an extension of the nonprofit. So the donations that we receive go to Peaceful Empowerment Works so that it can help support expenses on the show. And there are a lot of other projects that we want to get into that we're going to have Kris back at another time to talk about as well. But if you like what we do here and you want to support our message, please go to peacefulempowermentworks.org and make your tax-deductible donation. That's peaceful, Peaceful, EMPOWERMENTWRKS.org. Yes, I know that's long, and we're actually going to be working on getting a shorter link to go with that. We got some tech stuff we're going to be doing in the background to make everything easier to find. Mm-hmm. And we'll just leave it at that for now. Yes. So, usually we have Janice ring us in with a singing bowl. And since she's not here, I'm just going to ask if everybody who's watching, and Kris, join with me, take a deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. And if you can, have your feet flat on the floor. One more deep breath in through your nose. And out through your mouth. And let's go one more. Deep in. Hold for a second. And release. All right. And here we are. For those of you that have, there's an echo.
Is there?
Yeah, there was. Okay, maybe that's gone. All right. For those of you that have watched the show since the beginning, you know that Kris and I started out the show co-hosting together. Mm-hmm. She went away, worked on some amazing things. Janice joined the show, and now we get to have Kris back to update us on some goings on. Right. What's coming along, and how the message that she has been able to clearly receive and shape to share with everybody. And today we're going to be talking about community and reconnecting to community.
Yeah. And, thank you, Judy. A lot of this comes from this sense of not just isolation that I know myself and many of us have been experiencing and talking about, but also the fact that when we, in the absence of community, we have to do so many things in our own lives, right? Like we end up being responsible for and take care of just an overwhelming number of things at home, in family, in the school environment. I mean, if you're raising kids and you're trying to figure out how do I, get my kids everything they need and take care of my job and take care of my home and all of those things, and you don't have those community connections where you can kind of, exchange and share and help one another to get things done, it's really too much for any one person. And interestingly, because of how humanity has sort of evolved and the way our social situations have been for the last 100 years or so, a lot of us are trying as hard as we can to actually do all of those things and then beating ourselves up for not being able to do the impossible.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And that's what we're going to dig into, folks. But first, we're going to go through and do our good news segment and our weekly affirmations and all those wonderful things. Because Janice, even though she's not here, she still sends these wonderful things in for us. So her good news video today is about a gentleman named Matt. So Silverio, if you want to roll that, then we'll chat.
I'm a teacher, and today I want to tell you about a sticky note. Years ago, I had this kid who wouldn't speak. When I say wouldn't speak, I mean not at all, not one word. And I have never felt so ill-equipped as a teacher. Like, I had no tools for this situation. So as a way to help connect with that kid, I just drew a cartoon or wrote a little message on a sticky note and put it on their desk every day. And went on like that for the rest of the year. We had parent meetings and counselor meetings and psychologist meetings, and we tried talking to the kid, and just the kid didn't speak all year. 2 years go by, and I get an envelope in the mail. I open it up, and what's inside? A single sticky note. And on it, it said, I saved all your sticky notes. Thank you so much. You helped me more than you know. And that's kind of what's hard about teaching. You never get to know your impact most of the time. You never get to know. But I guarantee you, whatever you're doing, even the small things like a sticky note, they probably have made a huge difference.
Yeah. So, those that have watched know that I was a teacher in another lifetime. And I can remember searching to find different ways to connect with different kids. And so as I watched this, it was like, of course, it took me back to those days. But it also is so impactful for exactly what we're going to talk about today, community, because you never know. That smile that you share with someone could very possibly be the only smile they see all day. That kind word that you offer up could very well be the only kind word they've heard in months.
Yeah.
So when we can show up and just be kind and respectful and engage, be willing to engage, it opens up the door for connection to happen. And in connection, there's healing.
Yes, absolutely.
So, do you have any input, Kris?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that pops up to me is that once you open that window to let somebody know that they could have a different experience with someone, that window will never be closed. Like, from that moment forward, that child, that individual goes forward with the knowledge that it is possible to have a different experience than they're used to. And that provides that hope that we always talk about. As long as you have hope, you'll keep trying, trying to find ways to connect, keep trying to find ways to have joy in your life. And what that teacher did was, in my mind, open a big window that child will spend his life exploring and expanding.
Yeah, just beautiful. And you might not get the feedback, but trust, if you're working from your heart space, it's landing somewhere.
Right.
It's landing somewhere. So excellent. I love that. All right. So here we go to Attitude is Everything, our weekly affirmation. And Janice sent in our weekly affirmation. I used the picture. That's actually Maddie on the beach when she was a kid.
That's great.
The affirmation for this week is, I will not let the bad shape me. I will not let the hurt mold me. I will not let the pain change me. And it's interesting because, at first I was like, aren't weekly affirmations supposed to be all positive and uplifting? And it's all about what hits you, what aligns with you and where you are. And when I started to dig a little deeper into this, it brought up a song that I love and have used to help support me during my healing. And it's the India Irie song, I Am Light, because she goes through and she says things very similar. I'm not the things my family did. I'm not the voices in my head. I'm not the pieces of my brokenness inside. I'm light. And so Kris and I were talking in the pregame, and I was like, I saw that affirmation and I kind of struggled with it a little bit, and it brought me to this song. And then we started talking, and even more clarity started to come up as to the importance of this affirmation.
Yes. I mean, there's that part of, defiance, or like standing up for yourself and saying, I'm not going to conform to other people's ideas of me or other people's rules for me. I'm going to be me, and I'm going to have to find out what that means.
Yeah. And that's when it reminded me that early on in this journey, when I realized that I could have a voice and I could set boundaries. I always talk about setting boundaries with barbed wire.
Yeah.
That was my setting boundary with barbed wire, because I was like, no more. No more. I'm not going to let my past wounds dictate who I am. I'm not going to. And it made me laugh today, because I had to figure out what I wasn't before I could figure out what I was. And I feel like setting the boundaries like that was very crucial to me figuring out what I wasn't and what I wasn't going to accept anymore, so that I could figure out what I wanted and who I was.
Right. And one of the things you and I've talked about a lot is that when you find out what's true for you and you speak from that place of neutral truth, like this is just what's true for me, that oftentimes your ideas about what will or won't work, what people will or won't accept, sort of vanish, because you find that when you just speak the truth and say, this is what I need for this to work for me, most of the time people will just say, oh, okay.
It's not a negotiation. It's not anything. It just, this is what I need.
Yes.
Either, you want to work together or you don't. And that's okay. The biggest thing is the attachment. I have no attachment to the outcome.
Right.
I have no attachment to the outcome, and then as the journey continues, we start to realize those things that we declared weren't going to shape us. We realize, well, wait, they actually did, because they played a part in getting me to that point where I'm tired of the bullshit. I can't take it anymore.
Right.
And that's a crucial place to hit, because it's in that space where you start looking for other options, things outside the box.
Yes. And there's this great book called The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. And it's been around for, I think, hundreds of years. And it's a very short book, but it really talks about how there is no joy without suffering. There is no growth without challenge. That it's actually the hard, the pain, the tough things are actually what we shape ourselves against. It's like how we sort of, if we're knives, we're kind of sharpening ourselves against the stones of these pain and struggle. And that's how we find out what we are, by finding out that we're not, that we don't want the pain and the suffering.
Exactly. I keep hearing, the metal forged in fire.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah. Excellent. And then, of course, I love me some Jelly Roll. I love me some Jelly Roll. And he has a song that's called Unpretty that I've heard it multiple times this week and kept wondering why it kept playing. Kept playing through Pandora to me. And he talks about, I'm not the man I used to be and things like that. But he acknowledges that I'm nothing without my sins.
Right.
Yeah. I can't pretend I'm not all pretty.
Yes. And I think it can actually be really, what's the word? It can be shocking to people when we go through that process and we kind of open the cupboards and the closets and the whatnot inside of us for those things that we don't want to acknowledge about ourselves. And we start going, oh, this is just part of being human. Oh, everybody's got these. Oh, it's okay. This is how I got to where I am. And if I in order for me to like where I am, I actually have to like my journey. I mean, for me, right? So when you get to that point where you can see how all these things helped you to find yourself. And, you know, we're still going. I mean, it's not like, oh, I got all the answers. It's like we're still here on the journey. So we're still learning and discovering things. But when you're no longer afraid of the parts of you that you've discovered or the parts that you will discover, the journey completely changes, because now you can talk about it, and what you can talk about, you can process and move through.
Exactly. It moves that energy. And simply being able to say, I am human. I am human, instead of shaming, blaming, and hiding.
Right.
When we blame and hide, there can be no healing, because we're hiding those parts of us that need to be healed.
Yes. Which is exactly why community is so hard for us now. Because if I'm trying to hide from the other people in the room the things about myself that I think are unacceptable, then all they're going to see is reflections of what I want them to think is true about me, and not actually me. Right? If we're all pretending to be something that we think is acceptable, how can we connect with one another on a meaningful level and work through what it is that we're struggling with?
Yeah, you can't. You can't. So thank you, Silverio. He's moving us right along.
Yes, I see that.
Our pearls of wisdom for this week. The goal is to build a life you don't need to escape from, where peace isn't something you chase, but something you live every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And, you know, peace is something that a lot of us we don't even have any idea what it is, because we have not truly experienced it.
It's funny. I'm not going to tell the whole story, so don't worry. But the first time I had the butterfly experience that people have heard me talk about, and I just had this total peace. I was completely at peace. That moment, that experience changed the direction of my life, because I wanted to know what that was and how to get it back.
Yes.
And it was years later that I found out that was just peace. And I don't mean just peace, but I actually had a moment of peace. And I was like, whoa, what is that? Because I didn't realize I had been living in anxiety and fight or flight my whole life.
Right. No.
I had no idea peace was an option.
No. Peace to me, prior to experiencing true peace, was like quiet. Peace and quiet.
Right. Church.
Quiet, still, not moving, you know, resting and things like that. And then to realize that I wasn't resting either, because the whole time I'm sitting still, I'm mind fucking myself for sitting still. That's not resting.
Right. Or when is this over? Or what am I going to do after this? Or what happened on the way here? Or that is not peace.
No, I'm going to experience peace for 10 minutes. Oh, I only have 9 minutes left.
Exactly. Which is why meditation is so important. Meditation and yoga and other things are all trying to, and the name of the show, right? Be here now. It's like they're all trying to help us to become present and actually not be thinking about the past or forecasting the future or even counting the moments as they go by, but just be here.
Yeah. Be here now with us. And, you know, we talk about, I actually referred it to a client last week, was, you know, when the panic, people are really anxious and panicky right now. There's a lot going on, a lot of energy shifting and a lot of things happening. And it's that technique that we learned in class, you know, find a focus point, feel something with your fingers, listen, what are you hearing? And then you focus on those 3 things. In class, for me to learn how to do that, I would be like eyes, fingers, ears, and then whatever it was I would look at, I would say what it was. What am I feeling? What am I hearing? And I would just keep doing that over and over and over again until all the other static was gone.
Yes.
So that was the technique I used to help bring me present.
Yeah.
Breath. breathe, people. We don't breathe deep enough.
It's so true. The rabbit breathing is part of fight or flight, right? And there's a certain chemical soup that's going on inside of us when we're in fight or flight, which there's a great book I highly recommend called Mother Hunger, which talks about how children actually don't have their own chemical, emotional makeup when we're born. We're actually using the mother's and mirroring her makeup, her chemical makeup, the way she responds to different situations. So if you have a mom who was in fight or flight, which most of us did. I mean, our society is stressful. So if you have a mom who is in that chemical makeup, chances are you just adopted that because that's how we're wired. And you wouldn't know something different until you learn how to create it for yourself.
Exactly. All right. I think this is a great place for us to take a commercial break. And when we come back, we'll join Kris and talk about be seen, be heard, reconnecting with your community. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back to Be Here Now, the Peaceful Empowerment Work Show. We're here with our special guest, Ms. Kris Burke, and she's going to talk to us about be seen, be heard, reconnecting with your community. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Judy. And you know what's really funny is I realized I was kind of sprinkling these pieces in as we were going through, and it's like, oh, I was supposed to wait until now. So that's kind of
supposed to do anything. Everything unfolds as it is meant to.
Yeah, absolutely. It does. Yeah. This community collaboration. I mean, Judy knows that I started my journey about 15 years ago. 19 years ago, actually, my journey, but 15 years ago, I started being, how do we get community together? How do we come together in groups and help one another? Because we're all struggling with different versions of the same things. And we're not gaining from one another's experience, from the knowledge that we learn, right? So if I figure out, oh, this is how I can be healthier, or this is how I can be happier, or this is how I can manage my kid's schedule better, or whatever those things are, right? As I'm learning those things, why am I not sharing that with other people who are sharing the things they learned so we can all learn faster together, right? And so that we can help one another out. Instead, we're all operating on this level of, no, everything in my life's great, right? Everything, I've got it all buttoned up. And under the surface, you know, saying, God, I hope nobody finds out that I've got all these challenges that I'm not even able to deal with because I'm in fight, flight, or freeze. So much of the time because I'm overwhelmed by all of the things that I'm trying to manage on my own because I think that's what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
And so you get into that freeze state, and then people will refer to that as procrastination. And actually, it's just a reaction to the truth that our society kind of gives us a prescription for life that leads to complete and utter overwhelm, followed by incredible disappointment.
Absolutely. Yeah, we were talking about this the other day, and I had actually figured out where I heard it, Kris. It was on a TV show we were watching. They referenced the duck, whereas on the surface, it looks like the duck is calm, cool, got it all together, but underneath it's paddling its ass off so it can get to where it feels like it needs to go. And I feel like that's, especially on social media and things like that, not everybody, but people put that image out there that everything's great and everything's perfect. Meanwhile, they can barely keep their heads above water. And for whatever reason, we don't feel comfortable to reach out and ask for help.
Right. We absolutely don't, because we have that social, program or story that we share that says you should be able to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You should be able to handle this. Don't be lazy. Don't be, stupid. Right?
Right.
I mean, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people I meet are so afraid you're going to figure out they're stupid. I mean, we're all stupid in a lot of ways. It's true.
Huh?
I mean, there's so many. You think about all of the things there are to know in the world. Most of those things I know like nothing about.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I happen to know a lot about the areas that really matter to me, where I invest my energy and time, but I don't know about most things. And the idea that I have to pretend that I do,
Mm-hmm.
that's just exhausting.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was a teacher, I had the Einstein quote, something along the lines of, a fish is a master at swimming, but if you ask a fish to climb a tree, then it feels stupid.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
We all have gifts that we bring to the world, and they all require kind of a different complement or of energy and makeup. And if we're all trying to be this idea that's impossible anyway, I mean, it's made up.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's being that because it can't be done.
Exactly. And, be seen, be heard. It was like, okay, so with the pandemic and COVID, we went through this hibernation period is what I really feel like a lot of it was. And in that hibernation period, there was an awful lot of trauma. So, we've been gradually coming out on the other side of it and trying, figuring out, we've realized life is never going to go back to what it was.
Right.
Which I feel honestly is a good thing because we should always be moving forward, learn from our experiences and go forward. So, when we were talking about titles for the show, Kris was like, I don't know, I keep hearing seen, be heard. So what exactly does that mean? What are we telling the people to do?
We're telling people to first of all, tune into who am I?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like the quote that Janice provided or the affirmation that she provided. Like, what am I and what am I not? Right? What's me? What can I show to the world that I can feel confident is me?
Mm-hmm.
That I can love the process that got me to that part of me being here, not the image of it, not the concept of it, not the pretty story I tell people about it, but the truth about the fact that because I lived and I faced challenges and had experiences and received opportunities and took advantage and didn't, and, navigated a life and lived a life process, I'm now here able to know this part of myself. And that's a beautiful thing. Can we love that and not pick it apart and say parts of it are acceptable and parts of it are not? Because without the whole, it couldn't be there.
Right. Without the whole, we aren't our true, authentic selves.
That's right.
The good, the bad, the ugly. It's all part of who we are. It's all part of our. Yeah.
It is. I mean, I facilitate like personal growth and group collaboration because I spent so many years figuring out how not to do it, how it doesn't work. Right? It's not because I'm just smarter than everybody else. Right. It's because I was really committed to it. It's my passion project. And I was really committed to wanting this experience, not even sure that it would exist. But because I'd had that experience of peace, it was like, I've got to at least try. I've got to find out. I have to know, right? I won't be satisfied until I know. And so I spent years and years and years, as Judy knows, and we'll talk a little bit about that, right? Mm-hmm. Finding out like, wow, this totally doesn't work. And this totally doesn't work. And so let's try it this way and let's try it that way until it started to be, like, wow, that just worked and it's even better than we imagined.
Yeah. Yeah, and the biggest thing through that journey that I have taken with you is the clarity. Everything that happened because I needed clarity on what my gift was, what my contribution was, because I came at the whole let's work together and build something with a group of amazing women, thinking, what the hell do I have to offer? I have nothing of worth. So I was sitting in these meetings trying to figure out, okay, what can I conform to? What can I contribute? Who can I be? Who do I need to be so that I can stay in this group?
Right.
Because I mean, you get that group of powerful women together, and literally I said to, I don't even know why the hell I was invited, but hey, I'm going. So, you know, through this process, working with you and things that we have gone through that have not always been pretty and felt good, but it's what I needed in order for me to realize I am worthy and I do have something of worth to share. And it just gave me that little kick of confidence to be like, okay, this is my lane. This is my passion. This is what I want to contribute.
Yes.
And if there's a place for that, great. If not, okay.
Right. Yeah. And so much of it, I remember in the beginning, bringing people together and me, just what I'd experienced, how I navigated childhood and the work world and all of that. You know, my approach was, how do I make it okay for you to be you?
Mm-hmm.
And what we discovered in this process is that people can't be themselves until they know who they are.
Yep.
And most of us don't know who we are because we haven't been invited to go through that process of self-discovery.
No. And you said those words. You literally said, I'm here because I want to know who, you know, what I can do to help you be you. And meanwhile, I'm sitting there going, what can I do so that I can be of value here? Because exactly right there, I want to help you be you. Well, I don't know who the fuck I am.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. And I didn't get that. It took years. It took struggle. It took relationship conflicts and breakdowns. There were a lot of tears. I mean, I remember sitting in Zoom sessions with, you know, 5 or 6 women, and just crying and being like, I'm doing everything I know to do to help this to be what I feel in my heart it wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it isn't working and I don't know what else to do. And the truth is none of us did, because it wasn't a process that we learned in the world as it operates today. No.
And as long as somebody's people pleasing, then they're not taking responsibility for them showing up because they're busy trying to make everybody else comfortable. Right. And don't allow the other people to take responsibility for how they're showing up because we're placating.
Yes. And that was an interesting thing, actually, because there kept being this thing of like, we don't want a hierarchy and we want you to be the leader and tell us what to do. That was one of the things I really struggled with.
Yeah.
It was like, I'm trying to create an environment and I didn't know what this meant. It's not like I had it all figured out. I didn't. I have that clarity now, right? I couldn't have put it in words back then. Right. But I had this sense of, I want to create an environment where you can be you, where you can be your own leader of your own life, and then decide what it is that you want to contribute. So imagine we're all making a big, lovely stew that we're going to share as a community. And it's like, you know, we're going to find out like, oh, I'm going to bring the carrots and Judy's going to, you know, bring the potatoes, and like, we're going to have different people make their contributions and we're going to have a better stew. And I'm saying to people like, so what do you bring? What do you want to bring? And people are saying, tell me what to bring. It's like,
what do you want me to bring?
Yes.
What do you want to bring?
Yes. And we got stuck in these, you know, you're not being what I need you to be, and you're not doing what I need you to do, because we have this old experience of somebody's in charge and the rest of us conform.
Yeah, I can remember sitting in those meetings where Kris would, what I really need is an assistant that can do this, 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 and this. And I'm thinking, oh, can I do that? Oh, I can't do that.
Right.
And then
Right.
just beating myself up ruthlessly because I was not able to give what she needed. Well, that's not my gift.
No.
And now I can say that's not my gift because I'm confident in what it is I want to bring to the program.
Yes. And
it
telling
took
the truth. It did. Well, you can't tell the truth about who you are and how you approach things and what you would like to offer to a collaboration or to any group for that matter. Could be your family, right? You can't communicate what that is until you know.
Yeah.
And the challenge was all of us were kind of reacting to one another without really being able to put into words what our own truth was, because we didn't know it yet.
No, we had no idea. And we didn't know it because, we were doing our work and we have been doing self-discovery and we know that we heal in layers and all, but we didn't know the depths of it. A lot of it was still conceptual. Whereas I feel like the past 3 years has really been about it coming from here and going to here and making that heart connection.
Yeah.
And when you make that heart connection and you throw something out there and you're like, how does that feel to you? You really pause and you allow yourself to feel into it. And, Kris and I are now at a place where we ask each other, how does that feel to you? I don't think so. Not yet. That doesn't, or that's not really my thing. And we're comfortable saying.
Yeah.
Dare we say the uncomfortable? At one point was uncomfortable to speak that. Now, I'll be the first to tell you that Kris had to be the one strong enough to be like, hey, there's something on, and she didn't know what was going on, but she knew that we needed a little break in our energetic connection. And, that's what really put me over that hump of, okay, well, what is it I'm offering to this world? Because I was no longer focused on trying to be what Kris needed. It's like, all right, what's my contribution? Who the hell am I? I had no idea that we were in a codependent relationship.
Right.
And if somebody had said you two were in a codependent relationship, I'd have been like, what? That's insane.
Right. Well, people whenever I heard codependent relationship, I used to be like, what does that mean? And you can read about it and you can, but still I'd be like, I still don't know what that means. Right. Because I was trying to create an environment where people would do what I thought they wanted to do. And people were trying to be what they thought I wanted them to be. And so it was like guessing and pretending. We didn't know how to just connect. And in fact, when we finally got to this collaboration part, and I don't want to say finally because that's a little judgy, it was a big journey and we worked really hard and we did really well. Right. There was a part in the journey where we were actually saying, honestly, like, I don't know if collaboration is possible.
Yeah. I'm to the point where I don't even know what the hell collaboration is.
That's right.
I can barely collaborate with all the parts of me.
Yes. And we ended up breaking it down to saying, like, maybe we just won't collaborate. Maybe collaboration's a nice idea. And it's just going to stay an idea, because whenever we show up and try to collaborate, and I had somebody at a Fortune 50 company the other day say, look, our number one agenda for this year is collaboration. We don't know how to do it.
They said that?
They did. Yeah. I mean, and I know this because I've gone to places where they're like, oh, this is what we're doing. We're doing collaboration. But like we just said, until each person there is able to show up responsible for themselves as a leader in their own life and share their own truth and talk about their own way of getting things done that works for them, you can't collaborate because you're playing a big guessing game where everybody's trying to guess what other people want and trying to be that.
The visual I just saw, and I've never seen this before, and all the times we've talked about this, is how when infants they learn to play, but they don't play together at first. What do they call that? Parallel play?
Yes. Yes.
It's the idea of collaboration in the 3D world is actually parallel play, where there's limited engagement at all. It's all it's funny. That's the visual I got.
That
Parallel
makes, yes, that makes so much sense, because I have this sense, and we all do, you know, that we're evolving, right?
play.
And that this is this next step where we actually are able to collaborate. But first we have to know, well, like you said, how do I get my own parts to collaborate? How do I get my wounded child and my, you know, focused, I want to achieve things in this world ego parts? And, you know, how do I get my soul? Like, how do I get all of these parts in the boat rowing in the same direction? The way that actually works for me, right? Because if I'm not doing that, if my characters are all over the place, if my energies and my intentions and my interests are all scattered all over the place, and I haven't sort of integrated it into something that works for me, then when I walk into a room with other people, only chaos can ensue.
See, I would walk into the room and be that duck, but flip the cucumber on top.
Right. And there was kind of a strange thing about me, which I think was part of my makeup, because this was part of my purpose in this world, where I would say, I don't know how to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that means. I'm confused by this.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I just naturally assumed that other people did that too, that if they didn't know how something worked, or were confused by something or afraid by something, that they would speak up and say, I don't understand this.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And what I learned in this collaboration process is that this means a lot of things, but it doesn't mean I'm with you.
No, I was that kid that would sit in class and the teacher would be like, understand? I wasn't going to be the one person that raised my hand and said no. It was
Right.
like, I'll figure it out later.
Yes. And this is the point of where we're at as a society, is that 9 out of 10 kids sitting in that classroom don't know. And nobody wants to be the one person.
Yeah, I just heard they don't know and they don't care right now either.
Yeah, and
A
that's
lot
true.
of them are having trouble caring. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really true. Well, if you're not connected to your heart, if you're not connected to your soul,
Mm-hmm.
your heart, whatever your belief system, your essence, like the yummy love, joy, nurturing stuff inside, if you're not connected to that, you can't care, because that's the stuff that cares.
Right. Exactly. That's an excellent point. Excellent point. We're running out of time. So what is the best way for someone to contact you should they want to dig deeper into your ability to facilitate the process of collaboration?
Well, this would be great. The phone number here, info@masterfulu.com. That's masterfulu.com. And the phone number 929-290-0056. Yeah.
Perfect.
That's great. And it's, you know, for those of you who are looking to bring collaboration into your world, whether that's your family or your own, you know, spirit and body, or your organization, or whatever it is, we have offerings that, you know, we facilitate that process in a way that we don't come in and tell people what to do, because how could we know?
Right.
What we do is we help you to open the doors and the closets inside and find the parts of you that have been hiding away because they were afraid they wouldn't be loved in this world. And we help you to love them so that you can share them in community as the gifts that they are.
Yes. Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us, Kris. You know, I can do the show alone, but I prefer to do it with someone else. So I really appreciate you coming on and being our special guest today.
Thank you, Judy.
So we want to thank all our viewers for choosing to be here now with us. Please always remember that, as Janice tells you, you are not alone. And don't ever forget that you are awesome. Mm-hmm. Thank you again, Kris. Thank you, Silverio. And thank you, everybody else out there. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.